So I had a buddy who was kind of a problem drinker, you might say. But he was kind of an intellectual guy. He read the Bible, he studied philosophy, and he was, in spite of his drinking, he was pretty knowledgeable. And I remember him saying, you know, this story here, this wedding feast in Cana, this whole thing of Jesus turning water into wine, he says, it's a justification for heavier drinking. That Jesus was a party guy, and that was just part of the deal. And, you know, I listened to him, and I said, well, that's an interesting thought. But I think we all have been at wedding parties where there's that point in the wedding where maybe the laughter is louder, more frenetic, the voices are going up, and there are many, not all in the crowd, who probably have drank their fill. And if you could somehow convert the bar into a coffee service, maybe you would. You know. But I think we've all been there. Now, the thing that I really like about this story is that it really gives us a taste of the human Jesus. We say that Jesus is fully God and fully man, and he demonstrates particularly that fully man portion of this story as we look at this interplay between Jesus and his mother. You see, this is a big wedding feast. Cana is probably a very small town. It's probably the party of the year. It's been going on for a few days, and these things would go on for 3, 4, 5 days. And it was an opportunity for people who lived lives of maybe quiet desperation to really let loose and celebrate the gift of life. And Mary, recognizing how important this was, not only to the community, but to the parents of those who were married, she looked at the family, she looked at the parents, and she felt a type of compassion for them, recognizing that the wine had fundamentally run out. She put herself in the shoes of the parents, and she wanted them to avoid a measure of embarrassment. And so she says to Jesus, the wine ran out. And Jesus looks at his mom, and what do you want me to do about it? It's not my problem. My time hasn't come. Now, Jesus is probably, when he says that, he's probably thinking his time is the death and resurrection, the foretaste of the feast to come. He's connecting this feast with something like that. He's not on any level resonating with the plight of the parents that his mother presents to him. And the mother, Mary, she just shoots daggers, as only a mother can. We probably all felt that stare. She says no more words. There are no more words between Jesus and Mary. She just shoots some daggers, and then she calls the wine stewards up. Do whatever he tells you, right? Well, we know the rest of the story. The water turns into wine. And it's just an interesting demonstration of, you know, Jesus, his humanness. Now, people have said, well, this is quite an act of faith on the part of Mary. I don't know that it was. Mary knew who her son was. She had that affirmation throughout her life. She knew exactly who he was. She was, you know, visited by an angel before she became pregnant. She goes and visits a relative who is carrying John the Baptist, and John the Baptist jumps in the belly of the mother, who recognizes Jesus as something special. She's had this affirmation through the shepherds on the night of the birth, and then many months later she has more affirmation from priest that traveled 800 or 900 miles to see the baby. She knows who this is, and she knows full well what he can do. And she does it. And so, as I generally suggest almost every week, our faith, as we follow the life of Jesus, we're invited into the dimension of the great peace, the Shalom. And we're talking about compassion, mercy, justice, forgiveness, and these dimensions are very contextual. They are always able to be applied to any and every situation in life if one follows those steps. And in this case, what we are seeing in the wedding feast, we're seeing a dimension of mercy and grace. Mary, her heart going out to the parents is a merciful expression. She wants to help them avoid embarrassment. You see, mercy is the withholding of punishment for some specific reason. The punishment would have been the embarrassment of not having the wine. Grace is simply a gift, and we see the gift coming through Jesus blessing the water, turning it into wine, and allowing the party to continue. So we see this story demonstrating dimensions of mercy and grace. Not so much about encouraging excessive drinking like my old buddy tried to suggest. And so I guess where we're at today is to think about, well, how does this lesson extend into our own lives? How do we apply the idea of mercy and grace in our own lives today? Now, I cook 30-40% of the time, and whatever. I cook a little bit. And nobody's going to, I'm not a great cook, okay? I'm just not. I'm at best average. Once in a while, I cook a really great meal, and it's kind of like a blind squirrel getting a nut. But, you know, for the most part, it's not that good. But my family provides a lot of mercy to me. They choose not to say, well, they don't do that. They simply say, thank you for cooking, which is fine. But there's mercy in that, you know. You can get beat down, you know, and they don't want that because someone's got to cook and you got to eat, right? So that's a dimension, though, of withholding that type of criticism is an act of mercy. Sometimes you have to criticize, to be sure, but a lot of times you don't have to. We don't have to. I know one of the things that happens a lot, and it's a tough one for people, we can be running late to meetings, running late to assignments, and that sort of thing. But particularly when we look at this type of thing as the volunteer organization of the church, running late can be another opportunity for us to extend mercy and grace. Now, it could be like someone's running late to whatever it is, and the response is, I was worried about you. I started to pray for you. I didn't know if you were okay. And now that you're here, I'm so glad that you are here. And now, let us get about what we need to get done. So in this case, we are merciful, we withhold criticism, and we are graceful and gracious and say, thank God you're okay, let's go and do what we need to do. Now, that's what we can do, demonstrating shalom. We can always be thinking about the application of shalom in our relationships here with our families, neighborhoods, and so on. So this is what we do. And it creates new wine, doesn't it? anytime something like this happens. Now, another one, I'll only give you one more, but political discussions. Now, I have to tell you, I studied political science. I taught it at Wayne State. I've been an observer for a long, long time. And I remember for so many years, I welcomed debate with people who had different opinions and perspectives. And I always knew that a debate of political perspectives was like a good ball game. When people were prepared, when they understood all the different perspectives of the issue, you could have a brisk, refreshing debate, and you'd learn something. If it's done right, both parties learn, and they experience something else. But it took, to do the debate, required that the opposition, both parties had to have profound, overwhelming respect for the other, recognizing that each life is trying to contextualize the meaning of life, and to welcome that iron sharpening iron, an old proverb. This was something that God would always hope we would do. Now, to do that requires a measure of mercy. I suspend my judgment of you, and I honor you, Grace, in having this conversation where we all can learn. Now, the problem we have in our world is we don't see it anymore. We used to see it all the time. We used to see it everywhere. It was more common, and it was a refreshing kind of thing to be able to do. We've actually lost the art. And it's left us with a really shallow kind of existence in understanding how do these things move forward? How does even our faith contextualize into an arena beyond the bounds of the church? But here's the thing. Mary and Jesus give us a model today, reminding us of the power of mercy and grace. And when we get back to that, and I pray that in our lifetime we'll see it again. What a wonderful day it'll be. When finally we start to communicate and we respect the dignity of the other, and we learn, and we grow, and we change, and we become new wine. You see, mercy and grace, properly applied, creates the unity that Jesus had hoped his disciples would operationalize in that final meal. And now we are invited to do the same. Amen.